All right, and we're live. All right, so I got Speedy here with me. Say hello, Speedy.
Hello, Speedy.
And Gary Costello.
Yep. Hi, Speedy. Hi, Erik. Hi, everybody.
So, all right, so we just got back from SHOT Show, except for Speedy, Gary and I. And what was that like for you, Gary?
It was a busy show. Lots of people around. We had a lot of visits. I was on the March booth helping the guys there. I got to see some of the show. Some pretty cool stuff there.
Yeah, there was. I did the math, and I walked over 93,000 steps, which equates to more than 50 miles.
Wow!
In 1 week, which for you it's
that's right to the bar and back.
About 80 kilometers. I walked about 80 kilometers.
I think mine was about 12 to 15,000 a day, but I was on the booth for some of it, so probably not as much as you've walked.
Yeah. So, what do you want to talk about, Speedy?
Everything.
Okay.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about the SHOT Show that you brought up earlier, some of the items that you saw that you might be transitioning into.
Okay.
The dies and the bodies and the blanks and everything else.
Okay. So everybody's coming in already saying hello. So hello. Don't forget to like the video. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Gary Costello flew all the way from the UK over here.
Just for this.
He needs a like.
Just for this.
And he made me take my cool glasses off, so.
Yeah. Anyway, so what were you talking about, Speedy, there?
Well, some of the items that you were mentioning earlier that you saw at the SHOT Show that people might have interest in.
Yeah. Like?
Well, you're talking about the new press that you might be making the plates for. Is that something you can talk about or not?
Probably not yet.
Okay. That's right, guys. It's going to be pretty cool when he does talk about it.
Yeah, it's going to happen, but not yet. I still got to see. You probably know what it's like. You go to SHOT Show and you talk to a lot of people, and then there's all these ideas that
the dog and pony show
you have there, but making them come to reality is a whole different ball game.
Well, we just got a walkthrough of Erik's facilities again for Gary, and you can constantly see the expansion towards increasing precision and quality. He just got a new CMM as his ice.
Yep.
So all of the bushings and everything else will be checked to ensure.
Well, we check them already, but it's quite painful sitting there with a bore gauge and checking everything. So this is obviously going to help.
It's just the next level.
Expedite everything, and it is a better measuring device than I mean, we have pretty expensive bore gauges, but still, it is no CMM.
Right.
So yeah, we're
you
still
take the human error out of the.
Yep.
The bore gauge is how much you apply the pressure to the tool, just like we were talking about the indicating micrometers yesterday.
Yeah, that was a cool thing. Yeah, some impressive machines there, Erik. I'm blown away by the big one.
Thank you. That's what she said.
A big deal.
Well, another thing I'd like to talk to you and possibly Gary about, we'll talk about some fire controls a little bit later, is we've got the Southwest Nationals coming up in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's coming up quick.
Not even that long, is it?
It's coming up quick, yeah.
So, what have you done in your shooting preparation that maybe you didn't do that the shooters might want to know about?
Well,
I'll tell you afterwards.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I did different.
It's too late for anybody to make a change now. Most people are preloaded.
I was going to say I didn't do anything different just because I don't have time, and what I've been doing has been working pretty well. The thing that I'm starting to do now, again, so I operate like this, championship year, world championship cycle or year. I push really hard, and leading up to it, I push really hard. And now I'm in the stashing stuff away, So if I have a really good barrel that I find, it gets put away. It doesn't get shot. They get saved for the world championship.
Right.
And I found a really good one that I shot at nationals, and I shot it at the team match, and we ended up getting a national record. So that barrel got put away. It's
in the vault.
Yeah, and I'm working on 2 others.
How do you go about selecting those barrels that you see as exceptional?
Well, I don't know that it's exceptional, but it shot really good. And I'm thinking, okay, well, it gets put away, right? And then I work on others. And if I find another one that's better than that, then it gets replaced. But at this point, nothing gets replaced. I start saving the really good stuff. Right. Then, let's say I find 3 or 4 barrels that are really good, put them away. And then on the championship year, world championship year, that's when I pull them out and I shoot them a little more. And then I start selecting the best 2 barrels.
So you have a program similar to the one I had when I shot competitively seriously. I'd call it a play year. So all the things I heard about the previous year, I would bring those out, the scopes, the bullets, the jackets, new barrels, new technology in barrel. You go from a standard twist to a game twist. You tried out a game twist?
Yep, I have. They work.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that they work any better than a conventional twist, but it's one of those things that if you just try one barrel,
right.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But
if you're a competitor, you have to try it because you have an opinion to the public.
Yeah, I mean,
people want to know, what do you think of game twist? What do you not think of game twist? You almost have to try it regardless. I know you're sponsored by Brooks, but
yeah. Well, I try. And you being one of my mentors it's like you got to try everything,
right?
And I have, and they shot well, but so do the 4 groups,
right?
So do the non-game twist 5 groups,
right.
And it's really fine. It's really hard nowadays to find a bad barrel, which is good. Like if you get a reputable,
it's probably one of the better times in history to buy a barrel, especially.
Yeah, it's hard it's hard to get a bad one now, which is good, And I think at this point, I'm not so sure the barrels are the limiting factor anymore.
Right.
Barrels are really good nowadays.
Well, I shoot a standard twist in the spring and the fall when the temperature's cooler, shooting the boat tail bullets.
Mm-hmm.
I'll shoot a 13.5 twist, and then when it's warmer, I'll typically shoot a game twist. And the 6mm for the light bullets that we shoot.
Yeah.
I'll shoot a 13.85 to a 13.75 or a 13.65 to a 13.5. It seems like in the winter or in the cooler months, my bullets are better stabilized by just a standard twist, a little bit faster.
Yeah. Well, I just got a text that says, how are there only 3 likes with 118 people watching? That's a good question. Anyway.
Eric, do you shoot a 9 or an 8.5?
9.
9. See, we shoot 8.5s because the weather's a bit cooler, and we think the 8.5. Well, I think the 8.5 works well in all weathers for us. So.
Right.
But I mean, 9s work. Don't get me wrong. But in the cooler, damp weather, I think, in my opinion, the 8.5.
Do you think when you went to South Africa, that might have been to your detriment or not?
No, that gun shot well. Yeah. It just was. It was me that didn't shoot well,
right.
And the problem I had with the firing pin.
Yeah, well, I can see the difference when shooting a game twist barrel in the cooler weather than I can in the hot weather. It just seems that all the groups I shoot when it's cool is a straight twist, a little bit faster. Works better.
I'm not sure we can see that on what we do. I don't know. Half a twist, I think, is good for stability, but I'm not sure we'll actually see it on target.
Right. Well, our bullets have such low BCs that you can really see it as far as aerodynamic jump.
Yeah. I'm talking 7mm here, of course, not 30. I shoot the 30 and the 7, so just in case anybody got confused with the 30.
Now that you're shooting a Magnum, Erik, are you ever tempted by the 300 WSM?
Well, I've shot the 300 before.
Revisiting it?
Well, no, not even with the recent announcement that Lapua is going to be making 300 WSM brass. No, it just, I don't know. I've tried it. They obviously work. If you can shoot them well, they work. But there's even now with the PRCW, there's even less advantage to shooting at 300.
Well, you shot the team record, didn't you, last year?
Yeah, I mean, last year we shot the team record with 7. So,
what was the score? Y'all shot clean, didn't you?
Yep, 800 with 53 X's.
Nice.
Well, that's incredible for the entire team to shoot clean.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a ballistic advantage. I think there is a consistency and accuracy advantage. But it's close now with the two PRC, PRCW, and the 300. I shoot both. I tend to shoot the 7 in the teams and the 300 in the individuals.
The reason for that?
Just less recoil, less
In the
less.
team?
Yeah, just your concentration level and so on. I think you don't have to concentrate so much on the position and the hold and getting everything. With the 300, you got to get it right. If you don't get it
more
right,
of a deliberate shot to shot gun
Yeah.
right there. Yeah,
Yeah, you can't go as quick.
Everything's right.
you can't get them down quick,
Yeah.
that quick anyway. Some guys can, but I can't. I have to be set up and square on and think about it more. What's your thoughts, Erik, on that?
Well, yeah, that was my problem with the 300. It was the recoil, and it's not the recoil on my shoulder. It's the setup. Like I always had to karate chop the bag. It seemed like it always wanted to drift. I was always terrified about crossfiring because it just, it just always moved on me.
Right.
Now, granted, if I had spent more time with it, I probably would have done better, figure out a way to shoot it. But I just got to the point where I just didn't. I went back and tried the Shaheen, and it was so easy. The Shaheen was just shoot, push it forward, you're right back on target. If you want to shoot fast, you can shoot fast. 300, I could never take advantage of the good conditions.
Right.
If it was windy, yeah, I'd get an advantage shooting a big 300. But if it was calm, I was always falling behind because everybody was just pounding away X's while I'm over here trying to adjust my rear bag.
It was moving your rear bag, or what was it doing to it?
Yeah, because they torque, right? So they push the.
Was it lifting up and out of the bag?
I don't remember what this has been a while back.
Yeah.
And it just, the other thing is I hate having more than one cartridge. I automate everything.
I know you're a man of
Well, I like to automate
Right
everything.
chain.
So, my annealer, my 750, my primer seater, my everything is set up. So when I want to go load ammo, I want to just go load ammo.
Right.
But I don't want to have to decide whether I'm going to do
Where's
the
that?
300 or whatever.
You just need 2 of everything.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. I already have 2 of everything for one cartridge.
You have to have 4 of everything.
Yeah, and it's that's the problem. Even the Shaheen, I still, I gave it up. Like once I do one, that's it. That's what I'm doing.
Well, when you mentioned having to karate chop that bag, I wrote an article at one time. It's called "Tuning Your Bags," and that was one of the issues that I had, and then finally figured out what was wrong with my setup was that the spacing between the ears wasn't correct, and then I had my bag so hard that after 2 or 3 shots, the butt would start to lift out of the bag, and you guys call them flyers, and that was a flyer in a sense, but it was induced by the rear bags. As that gun would finally release out of those bags, those ears would close up, the butt would lift up out of the bag and shoot one right out the bottom. And then most people that were experiencing that, after I learned that problem, and I start seeing people hammering their buttstock into the bag, I said, well, I don't have to worry about them because I can shoot one out the bottom eventually, So, I mean, all my bottom or low shots just disappeared right after that when I learned to get the ears where they just guided the gun. They were filled, and that's what, I don't know if you ever seen my bags where we put the...
So what's the correct setup?
Excuse me?
What's the correct setup on a rear bag? What should it be? What should it look like?
It should be basically almost like a guide for your bag where it's firm, there's no side play in it, but the ears don't have the ability or capability to close back in on the gun and lift it up. So if you look at my bags, and maybe next podcast I'll bring a set of them, I use the 1/4-inch rock hard felt. And I'll get, I'll cut several strips of that felt to spread those ears purposely. So I'll start with the nominal size. So if you have a 3/4-inch spacing in the back, I'll put that 3/4-inch piece and I'll put my gun in there. And if I lift my gun and I see the ears close back in, I know that that's not enough width at the base, So I'll put maybe an 800 instead of 750 or an 850 wide piece of that 1/4-inch rock hard felt. And maybe at that point in time, it'll still just close in a little bit. But I want it to hold the gun firmly side to side so that there's no side movement of the rifle inside the bags, and then there's no lift of it either. And then I said, usually when they close in, that's when it comes up. And I said, you'll be shooting along after you karate chopped your butt into the bags, and then you'll, sooner or later, they close together, and that as the gun starts to recoil, it'll lift up, and that shot will go right out the bottom. And you've heard on the interview you had with Bart, I don't know if it was the interview you had with Bart or one of his videos, when he's talking about his bags, and he says, I like them soft, you know. The only problem with those soft bags, and he mentions in that video, after a while when you're shooting it, you have to almost reform your bags because the gun starts settling in. A lot of times, especially with a twist that has a high gain like that for the heavy bullets, you know, your 9 twist or your the 10 twist, that's a lot of torque in the bag. And if you got too much softness in that bag, it'll start to dig a divot in on that left side of the gun, and then you'll start losing those shots up there 11 o'clock because that gun will torque and the shots will go up.
I just got one of the new Big Seb bags, which he made for me with the really nice rubber bottom, and that's made a big difference on the 300. It's a much bigger, heavier bag.
Right.
With that base, I mean, you can put it on a carpet or a mat, and you can actually...
Oh, well, that's actually like a donut in there.
Yeah, already built in, and that's a real nice thing. And I did what you said before with the felt on a previous lighter bag, on a Lenzi bag, and that does help.
Yeah.
That really does help.
I say you want to get those, so your bags can be hard, but they're not closing in on the gun, potentially lifting it up under recoil.
And you don't want that stock touching the bottom, correct?
I use once I've got that set up, unless you have a stock that was machined. You know, some of the wooden stocks I've seen, as they come to you, there's an offset between this side and this side where they're not symmetrical. You know, so you know when we catch that, I can put it in my tracking fixture and flatten that out where it's running perpendicular to the vertical axis of the stock. So. But I ride mine on the bottom. You can see where my stock rides on. It goes, what it looks like. Give me a piece of paper. Here we go. Throw me one of those pens, that red one. I'll draw it off for you. So the ears kind of roll in like so. And then I've got my felt piece down here. I'll show this to you in a second. And then my stock comes down like that. So. Can you see that? So the ears will start to pooch out and form a radius. There we go. And then there's the hard felt at the bottom. And then so the ears become a guide, and the bottom of the stock, especially on a stock like your F-class stock where it's parallel. I mean, it's perfect. You don't have to have any rake or anything on the bottom. It's just riding on that felt.
Seems simple enough.
Yeah, it's very simple. Other than, you know, taking the time. Sometimes when you get that felt in there just right, you have to either add or take a little of the sand out of those bags. And you have to monitor when a bag is new because they'll stretch, so that that initial perfect feel that you have as the bag stretches will start to give away and allow that stock to move side to side. So you have to monitor that for maybe first month or two. One thing that cuts down on that is once I get my bag set, I cover them with that Rain-X. I just get a bottle of that Rain-X, a little yellow bottle, and I'll take a cotton ball. I'll put that whole bottle on those bags. That way, if you're ever like you guys and lay out in the rain, and that rain just washes off them.
I did it. You told me this about 6 months ago, I think. Yeah. So
you can soak that bottle. You can pick the bag up, and then all the rain is gone. And all the other guys' bags are soaking wet. It looks like they're carrying a sack of mud, you know. And once you get those things wet, they're constantly stretching. You know, every time you put that, especially when you're doing the tomahawk chop or the karate chop, every time you're doing that on a wet sand on a bag that haven't been treated, all that water soaks in and gets into that sand. It just keeps stretching them and stretching them and stretching them.
So the biggest mistake people make is they get a bag,
right?
And the assumption they make is like, well, it's just put sand in it, we're done, right? And they'll ask, like, I get people ask me all the time. They said, "Hey, well, what's your stitch width on your?" I said, "Doesn't matter what I have.
Yeah.
You got to fit it to yours,
Right.
right?" Now, so how do you figure out which bag to get on the stitch width?
Well, I use one that's usually a little bit wider than what that flat is on the bottom of my stock, because as I shove that rock hard felt under those ears, it allows those ears to pooch out and fill that gap,
Mm-hmm.
So that entire width of rock hard felt, if you look at this picture, it's underneath those pooch sections of the bag right here where they flare out from filling them.
Mm-hmm.
So this might have been initially 3/4 of an inch, but because I've shoved maybe 900,000, even an inch into it, just depends on how they sewed the bags up,
Right.
So that controls these little radiuses right here that filled bag forms. So you've got basically 3 guides, a flat on the bottom and the 2 radiuses on the side. Another problem with the bags is once you've got that filled, and that becomes pretty rigid at that point, you'll see if you have any deficiencies in the sand in the main bag. If you can, on the front of your bag, if you can push the sand down there where you can feel a divot that forms in the sand, you'll see that those entire ears will rock almost like it's not even connected to the rest of the bag. And so when that happens, and that can also cause vertical, because that gun recoil, especially if you don't have any stock tape or there's a lot of friction between those two, those ears will rock back, lifting that gun up again, and again causing that shot to go down. Maybe it should have been an X, now it's a 10, or it's going to be a 10, now it's a 9.
Well, I don't mind if it's a 10 instead of an X.
The thing is, we don't know if it's bag or gun or condition, so most of that would be ignored. You'd probably just carry on and say, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
But I mean, you say stock tape. I've just got the aluminium rails on one of the stocks that you did for me,
Right.
and that drags.
Well, aluminum has a
it
real high
drags like you
coefficient of
would
friction.
not believe. So
Yeah.
that's all got tape on it now. And
Right.
it's ruined the look of it, but hey.
Well, we're up for performance first.
Absolutely.
No. Wait a minute.
Well, hang on,
Wait
you've got to
a
look
minute.
good doing it, though, haven't
Yeah.
you? Huh?
Wait a minute. It's got to look good.
Well, luckily it's hidden in the back.
No,
The
but
exposed part still looks
those
good.
alley rails are nice, but they don't track as well as a standard
Yeah.
wood stock. So you need to put something on them, and on the base, particularly on a 300 WSM, because
Right.
you're going to drag it. We had a conversation about it, didn't we?
Yeah, and I don't like the look of that brown Teflon tape
Nope.
on the rear bags,
Nope.
especially if you've got a gun like MJ that's got that beautiful flame maple on it.
I'm going to cry, but
You can see the difference in performance in the bags as opposed to that clear UHMW. Clear
you just
tape.
put it in there, move it backwards and forward, and you can feel it doing this.
Yeah, it dragged.
Yeah,
It'll chatter.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so that can affect your tune too. So I mean, those release in those bags, especially to us that shoot for group. We're trying to put them all in the same hole. I mean, if you shoot an X at 3 o'clock and one at 9 o'clock, it's an X. You're good to go.
So
keep them right in that space, and you're happy.
I had the same size Erik running on his Seb, and I never got that to work for me. That just didn't work in my setup.
Well, it
so
depends on the way you're.
the two need to match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well-
his stocks, I think, were never kind of made for that.
Well, I'm the one that came up with those sides. Back in 20. So the problem with my stock is it only goes up about half an inch,
Yeah.
and then it angles in.
Right.
So when I had the sandbags,
You lock
it would
it
would lock it in. So I had to come up with a solution because I didn't want to get disqualified.
Right.
Yeah, it's illegal. Yeah.
So I made those. What I did is I made some aluminum angles, and then I put Delrin tape on there because they wouldn't track very well with just aluminum.
Yeah.
See? And then when I was talking to Seb about it one day, fast forward 5 years, and I told him he's making this new rest, and I said, "Hey, this is what I made for mine. Send him pictures. I said, maybe you can do something like that with yours."
Right.
And he did. And now we don't have to worry about it because now they're illegal.
Yeah.
Well, I had them in my rest and tested them before Africa, and I swapped out to the sandbag because I was getting much better tracking and performance. So that was a personal thing, but my stock's a different shape to Erik.
Right. So the little bags with the L shape, those are legal?
It just has to be a sandbag, from what I understand.
Compressible material, namely a sandbag. Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as they're a sandbag, you're fine. Now I'm gonna see how.
I don't want to get disqualified again. I already got disqualified 1 year.
Oh, maybe we should talk about that.
That's where that dropout bag that what you call it's making now. Oh. Can you remember what they're
Which one?
Oh, the one that's made in New Mexico, or is it Arizona now? New Mexico.
No, I don't know. So, Speedy, how did you get disqualified?
Well, we showed up with our brand new rest, and it had the little bee bag in it. And so when I got the rest from Seb, it said the boxes came marked F for F class and B for bench rest that we got because we had ordered 4 or 5 of them. And so we grabbed 2 of them and it said B on them, and they had that little bee bag. Did you remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
And we went to the match, and they said, like, what is that? I said, it's the new Seb Neal. They said, no, what is that bag like that? I said, I don't know. That's what it came like, you know. And you didn't make that? No. I said, Jimmy's got one on his wrist just like that, you know. And they let us go on that one, and I won the 2-gun that weekend. And next year we went to the match, and they're out there looking at our wrist again, you know. That's what happens when you don't have something, you know.
Was it Edgewood?
Edgewood, yeah. They're the ones that are making that dropout bag. Sorry, Edgewood.
So you got DQ'd because of the bag?
Yeah.
So
we shot the first match, and they came up to us and asked if we had a second rest. I said, yeah. And they said, well, we're not going to allow that bag. We're going to have to disqualify you. And they said, if you want to continue with another rest, you know, go ahead and shoot that. And I said, well, if I win today, I've already shot 1 match illegally, you know, so we'll just go home.
Yeah.
And then, well, the reason we weren't too concerned about it because that Edgewood had already come out with that bag that goes over the top of the stock. You've seen it. It's real tall. When you tighten it up, it goes.
Oh, okay.
It covers the top of the stock in towards the barrel.
Yeah. Well, Johnny says no one cares until you win.
That's true.
Yep.
So I said we had something that nobody had seen before, so it just, you know.
Yeah, they always look at that the hardest, right?
Yeah.
If it's different.
Yeah, and then later on that year, they made a rule change on it and allowed it. We had some real good directors saying, look at some of the other sports and what they're doing, you know. And, you know, the mission statement that you see in the rule book is to create the most accurate rifles in the world, you know. So we were kind of lagging behind, especially when you look in F class and all that. And now you're getting just like the NBA.
Yeah, now F class is going the other way.
Yeah, you're going
F class, especially F open. I really enjoyed F open because that's what allowed you to kind of push the boundaries and push the limits. And now they're.
Well, I mean, all you have to do is by pushing those boundaries and limits is look at the scores you're shooting. I mean, you're shooting scores that are incredible. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, you really are becoming belly bench resters.
Yeah. Well, now not anymore. They're dialing it back.
Yeah.
I don't know who, but did you know?
Well, there's a lot of people who don't like to keep up with technology, you know. I mean, that's the only thing that's allowed me to be competitive is for as many years as I've shot, you know, is that I've always kept up with technology and embraced it, where other people see it as you know, now I got to work harder because this and that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, a real good example was yesterday we were looking at what a hard jam looked like on a bullet that I had there that we had established a hard jam on, and Gary wanted to take a picture of it, you know, and he had his phone, and I said, use the magnifier on your iPhone, and he didn't even know that was on there,
Didn't even know.
And so we scrolled to his app library, and we just typed in mag, and that magnifier
there it was.
I mean, you can see things. You don't need any kind of loops or anything with that. I mean, you can see the pores in your skin with this. Huh?
Yeah. So, I found out. So MDT makes what they call the It's an electronic level.
It used to be LRA, didn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. And what is it called nowadays?
Send it.
Send it. The send it level.
Right.
Yes, correct. Those are illegal in F class.
Yeah, I thought they might be
could-
eventually.
Why?
But the
Because they're
thing,
electronic.
Yeah.
But you can have an iPad there, or you can use your iPhone to look at your e-target.
I
yeah,
always figured if you got it level, then turn it off. But this doesn't work. I used to get one with the bubble in the middle,
Right.
and they've stopped making it, so you could turn off the electronics and still have the bubble level. But
Yeah,
now,
but the beauty of that thing is that you can
If you
see,
move,
you
yeah.
can see those lights without
Yeah.
even have to look
Yeah.
at them. You know,
Yeah.
you can see if it's green, while you're still shooting. You don't
Yeah.
have to physically look
I
at
think
it.
that's
Oh,
a-
that's in the center.
that's a step too far. That is,
Yeah.
if you ask me. But
well, that's my point, right? Like,
Yeah.
who was absolutely demolishing everybody
Nobody
else?
want to pay the 200 plus.
Well, who's gonna say, oh, the only reason he's winning is because it's that level?
yeah,
And here's the thing: they went as far as to actually put it in
Yeah.
the rules.
Usually, if you're not winning, it's because if you're winning, it's because I'm not doing my part.
Well, the thing is, they actually went and they spelled it out in the rules: no
Yeah,
electronic levels.
too far as I'm concerned.
And like until I saw that in the rules, I never even considered one. I have one in my PRS rifle.
Now, you were in construction. You wouldn't want to use any lasers in building a better house for a person.
No, why would you? But it's I don't know what's going on with F class. Honestly, they're of course they did away with the bags.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I get it. But the level, it's like and this is a rumor. I will start with that. But I heard through the grapevine that they're going to make, because a lot of people have those Swarovski BTX
Mhm.
spotting scopes.
That's what I heard. I was going to bring that up.
The big eyes.
Yeah, they look like big eyes,
Yeah.
but they're
Like
not. They have a binocular in the back.
Binocular.
And I heard, because a lot of shooters, they bring them, they use them for a coaching team, and then they use them for individuals. And I heard that they're going to make those illegal to shoot with, which I don't understand. Again, it's a
You
rumor.
can't do that.
Yeah, well, I heard that same
One
rumor.
lens
I
or
heard,
two lens?
I heard the reason that they didn't want to use that was because you have a better field of view, a wider field of view than your other competitor does.
They're available to them as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't like I said that makes no sense to me either, but we're not the governing body, so
Yeah,
we
and
don't make the rules.
and you know what I mean? It's like, okay, so now I'm gonna have to buy another spotting scope
Mm-hmm.
because I have that one and I use that for coaching. So does that mean I have to buy a second one now?
Yeah, but these things have been in use for years. Shiraz had one in
So I have levels.
2017.
It's just like he said, until you start winning with it, nobody cares.
Yeah, and I don't know that anybody's won because of a BTX scope. I don't know that they have. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's a rumor that I heard. Hopefully, it's not true.
Yeah.
Hopefully, but if it is, then you kind of be able to pinpoint like, oh, this is going too far. To me, the level's already too far.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
but I don't know if they take it to the spotting scope now, trying to limit which spotting scope you use. I don't know. Again, it's a rumor. Hopefully, that's just where it ends. That would be the best thing for F class if it's just a rumor, because
I think I can't see that going through. That's crazy. ICRA wouldn't be banning optics, spotting optics. That's not.
No more 8
yes.
What do I have said it now?
Well,
You
you're
only have 60 power.
well. Gary's the one that's shooting an illegal scope. Now that I think about it, doesn't your March have an illuminated reticle?
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's an electronic device.
So does everybody. Well, virtually everybody with an illumination.
That's what I mean, right?
doesn't have a
like how
level
far,
built into it, does
how far do they push electronics or ban electronics? Because the level, that's electronic. I don't know how a electronic level helps you more than a illuminated reticle.
It's
It
probably-
doesn't. It's just slightly easy to look at.
It is a little bit more precise.
Yeah. Yeah, but
You proved that was your fault, I think, Erik, because you had all those levels out there. You saw how they weren't level.
Yes.
Yeah, that was your fault. And then they saw that the electronic level was so accurate that
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Gary?
well,
It was a
on
fault,
levels, I agree. That's the step too far. Spotting scope, I agree. You look through one one lens, you look through two lenses. Put two spotting scopes together.
Well,
There's
yeah,
two-
those are big eyes.
You know.
Yeah.
No, what I meant is you've had two separate ones. Are they going to ban you from using two?
Yeah. Well,
No.
Yeah, Johnny says I'm probably not gonna be able to allowed to wear prescription glasses anymore. I'm gonna have to get a monocular. Or what do you?
Yeah, exactly.
Jeeves, hello, Jeeves.
All right, Gary, that's what's next, buddy.
Well, we may not talk about these fire controls because they're probably banning those things.
No,
too.
don't show
You
them
have
all
to
that.
use
That's-
the factory fire control.
We need some advantage, don't we?
Yeah. Well, again, I don't know. It just these are hopefully just rumors. I know the level's not a rumor. It's in the rules.
Yeah. They specify the Senate level or just
They just said-
electronic levels.
Electronic levels, and the thing is, it's written in the rules. No electronic levels.
Oh.
I never knew that would be a problem.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't think it, but
Whatever. All right.
Well, this is where, in the NBRSA, we have a general membership meeting where all these things are brought up and the membership votes on it. And then it's still up to the directors to make a yay or nay decision on what the membership voted. They can oppose everybody, but at least there is a vote cast on items like that. Every director brings up items that came from his area of the country, and then they vote on it at the nationals, and then after the vote, they go into their general board member meeting, and then the new rules come out, just like the Pope. We see the white smoke come out of the board meeting, and we have new rules, or not.
Honestly, I don't even know how rules are made in F class. I don't know that they goes to. I think they made an F class committee now.
Well, who voted on the committee?
That I didn't,
Yeah.
and from what I understand, it's the members of the committee are secret.
Yeah.
is this ICFRA or is this
is-
USF class? Or
This is U.S.
This is the NRA or
Right.
I don't know. Which governing body is this?
Well, Erik and I both at one point in time have talked about donating money and everything to start a F-class Hall of Fame.
Right.
I did it back in the early 90s, early 2000s. And we had discussed it with Larry Bartholomew, John Brewer, Bob Bach, and then we couldn't get anywhere. There was no.
Yeah. Well, what happens is people start going, well, when do you start? When do you start keeping? I said, I don't know. We'll start somewhere. And they're like, and everybody says, well, because everybody wants to vote on what benefits them, right?
Right.
Like, well, you should
Well,
start.
that's what it was.
And I said, well, it's real simple. We can start when they changed the target, right, to the one that we currently have.
Right.
Well, what about the other guys? Well, I mean, you got to
that's
start
what
at some point.
Yeah, that's what we want. We're going to do an honorary Hall of Fame for the people that would have made it
Right.
into the Hall of Fame at that time. So we were going to make them honorary members, and then.
Bottom
anyway.
line is it turned into a shit show real quick, and it's like, never mind. I'm not. But now we have the V2 finale, right?
Yeah.
And we have the F class point
Yeah,
series,
yeah.
which is
two Hall of Fame.
yeah. So now I guess we could do that now because now this is a whole different format, and
Right.
you only get invited to the V2 if you have points, meaning you are consistent over time, not just one match.
Right. Well, I mean, I talk to people all the time who are wanting to get into it, and that V2 format is loved by everybody because if you're a new shooter and you don't make the top 10 or whatever the cut is in F class, you get put on that bad relay,
Yeah.
And so, your chances start to diminish to do well when you're shooting the good guys or shooting first relay and everything else. So. But
Timmy
that,
bought
yeah.
Timmy bought relay. That's
Yeah.
the first relay.
Yeah.
Oh,
He pays extra for that now.
he doesn't have to
I've
pay
seen
extra.
the receipts.
Somehow he figured out a way to get on relay one all the time, and now it's just a given.
Yeah.
Timmy bought it. Everybody else can
his
be.
little section with his
Oh yeah, everybody can be on relay 2, and he's on relay 1. Relay 4. Doug Skogman and Omar Alonso. They almost died at a match one time. It was relay 4, and down came a torrential rain and winds and whatever, and Timmy was in the car asleep because he had already shot relay one. It's been documented. It's been well documented.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, what a pitiful shame! I'm not shooting."
Yeah. He apparently he was so bad. From what I heard, he was so bad that Tim had to turn on the car so the heater would kick on. Yeah, it was that bad for him. The other guys were drowning.
He had heat.
Yeah,
Life preserver.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough for everybody. So Fritz Braun says NRA F-less committee. John Ziegler is in charge of the committee. Hey Fritz, do you know who the members are? Let's see if Fritz knows. So I don't know how we got on this thing, but here we are.
Yeah. Well, we're here to discuss everything new
Open the can of worms
the year.
Yeah, it's Gary's fault.
No, not my fault.
Yeah, you brought that agenda.
And then we'll talk
UK.
about making the X-ring smaller, which we don't need to do. Lots of people say we do, but we don't need to do.
The what?
The X-ring. Make it smaller.
Oh, no. We're not there yet.
Oh, well, we have in our sport, for the 100 class in the varmint for score, they want to make the X an extra point.
Well, we had V equals 6 for a while.
Huh?
We had V equals 6 for a while. I don't know if that's Australians still do that, but we had it in the UK, good 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's small enough as it is. And people are still, people are not maxing out every detail or every match. So until they do.
Well, Erik was discussing something pretty cool. That might be a good segue into these things. But this morning when he was talking about the gentleman who sent the rifle to him that shot, 40 inches? At the 1,000?
20. No, it was. I'm trying to think here.
It was big.
The F-class rifle?
The one that he sent you 40 rounds.
Yeah, no, it was 17 inches.
17 inches.
17 inches at a
And
time.
you got it down to 8, I believe you said.
Yep, we haven't released that video yet, but yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Well, I mean,
we called it the series was called "Mine is Smaller Than Yours."
Yeah.
Trying to see who could shoot the smallest group.
I've been waiting for the. I saw the first part of it. I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
I thought you might have just thrown the gun in the trash like I would.
No. So Fred said he's gonna find out for us who's on that committee. He might get blacklisted. Careful,
yeah, you join us,
Fritz. Yeah, you'll join the rest of us. Now Gary's in the mix.
Yeah, you'll have to move.
Don't
to
drag
Texas.
me in.
Gary didn't even realize what he was getting him.
We can only shoot the V2 from now on.
Well, I'm done. We haven't got V2, not yet. Anyway.
There you go. You guys should work on that.
Yeah, we talked about that. But electronics are our problem. Maybe if we can do it on manuals, then it's something we could consider.
You can do it on manuals.
Yeah.
We have South Africa's doing it. Australia's doing it.
That's all electronics, isn't it?
I guess. I assume.
Well, I think we can do it on manuals. We just need.
But you can do it on manuals.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. All you need is just a spotter with a camera so you can see the target, and not a big deal.
Watch this space.
Yeah. So Fritz has just got. We have a word that Fritz has got picked up by a van outside his house with tinted windows.
Yeah, NRA on the side.
He's got a bag over his head.
Yeah. So it was nice knowing you, Fritz.
Yeah, I guess I won't be seeing you this week. He was supposed to come down here this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the way to Southwest Nationals. He wanted to go where David Parks and shoot 1,000 yards and get a little wind reading training.
There you go. Well, I know somewhere else he can go for 1,000 yards.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got laying in cow patties.
Oh.
Yeah, Fritz is tender.
After they get done with him, after they release him from the van, the cow patties are going to sound pretty good.
Cow patty won't be nothing to Fritz.
Oh, man. Anyway. All right, Speedy, what else you got here?
Well, I've noticed in a lot of podcasts we've been talking about, just like we were talking about that one gentleman who you reworked his entire rifle. And I won't get into too much detail, but I think you started with fire control.
Right.
So there's been a lot of talk about spring changing. I change my springs all the time. You do too. I said,
I changed mine in the spring.
Hey, there you go. spring is for spring changing.
Every barrel.
Actually, like Gary, yeah, I do new barrel, new spring.
New barrel, new spring. That's what the master over there said.
Yeah, I usually do that. I said if I get a good barrel, I'll just leave it on, and that spring will stay on there the season. I just, if I'm going to go through all the effort of tuning a rifle, and I think we go into a little bit more extensive tuning than the F-class shooters do. I think, we talked about that yesterday, what we do. And the fire control, like I said earlier in one of the other podcasts, to me is one of the most critical parts of the gun, as you'll see in an upcoming video.
All right, before we get into that, released, it will soon. I just gotta edit it. I just got back from shot. Yeah. But before we get into the whole fire control thing, let's answer some comments, because there's people wanting to know some stuff. So this is a good one. They asked me how many times I have bedded my F-class rifle. So that's a question for you, because how often should you bed the rifles, or is that just a one and done?
Bedded correctly. I mean, I think I saw a post or something about that here this last week about, maybe it was, I know who it was. It was our buddy Keith. He was saying that the bedding goes bad after a certain amount of time.
Which Keith?
Bascott.
Oh, Winding in the Wind.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a podcast on bedding going bad, and the method that they use in testing it. And it depends how you bed a gun. Being a mechanical engineer, we know that if you put a stock between two fixed points, being your front rest and your rear bag, we may not be able to see it, but gravity is working on it, so it's bending the stock like this. When we put the receiver in it, the receiver, if we want to call it straight, and you put a barrel on it, it wants to flex down like this. So you've got a natural tendency, the stock to flex up towards the barrel, and the barrel to flex down towards the stock. And if you don't bed it like that, when you bed it, like I've seen some people will grab the stock in the middle of the receiver area and put it in their vise and bed it and just hold the stock like that. Now, the ends, when you're holding it in the vise right here, they're bending down like this still, but your barrel is bending down with it, and now you've got a different load when you put it in the bag. Now, when you put it in the bag, the stock that you bent down like this flexes up towards the barrel still flexes down, so you're actually loading that stock to come unloaded every time you shoot it. It's just physics, and gravity is working all the time. It's just like they say, it's the law. So when we bed a gun, and do the final bedding up, I always set it in bags just like it's going to sit. When I glue a gun in, I want to glue that load into the gun when I bed one. Just like yours, we bedded it conventionally with screws, so it was bedded that way. And then when we glued it in and let it set in rear bags. So, and I put the carbon fiber block underneath it, so it's pretty stable. And I don't think you ever have to go back and rebed them. If you have to rebed them, there's typically something wrong with your bedding compound that has a high shrink rate to it. We tested. I had a friend that worked for the State Bureau of Standards, and they had the ability to measure things over time. And so he said, if you want to see what bedding shrinks the most over time, he said, cast me and machine me some 1-inch blocks of the bedding compound. He said, you want to use a large amount of it that you wouldn't typically use in the stock, so we can really measure shrink rate. So we cast the 1-inch blocks, and we machine them all to whatever, within about thousands or so of being the same height. And then they were measuring them, and so the Marine Techs was the best. Actually, the very best one was the DevCon titanium. It had the least amount of shrink rate. The second one was the Marine Techs. It had like 0.1%. No, it had 0.5%. The DevCon had 0.1%. The titanium, the steel, and the aluminum it shrunk considerably more than the other ones. There again, that was just one sample of each. You know, if you measured 2 or 3 different lots, it may vary.
Right.
But another one that shrank, it was equal to the DevCon. It was a bedding compound that HS Precision used to make and sell. I don't think that. I think there was another company bought it there in Mexico. I can't remember the name of that company either. So
the bottom line is you like DevCon, right?
Well,
I mean, I'm sorry, you like Marine Techs.
Marine Techs, yeah. Yeah, I say I can't see anything that changes over years.
All right. So what about bedded versus glued?
Well, I think the first thing you can feel when you glue a gun in is how solid it is. I mean, there's a marked difference in just the feel of the gun. You've got one now.
It's my first.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you the same question.
But
Bedding versus glue. So,
but it acts as one unit. So,
Yeah.
on a round action, it negates that potential torque of that round receiver inside the bedding, especially when you get into the big magnums, The other thing it does is say the F-class shooters, when you're shooting in the rain,
And we
it
do
mitigates any water ever getting underneath
we do a lot of
action.
that. Yeah.
So, the only thing if you ever have to address is maybe pulling the trigger out the bottom and spraying it out, putting it back in. Another thing about a glue-in, if you want to take a trigger, change the trigger in a conventionally bedded gun, you have to take the whole gun apart. And then when you put it back together, you may have 4 or 5 shots before that settles down, But in a glued-in gun, you take the trigger guard off, you take the 2 screws out. If you have a second trigger set up for it, you have to make sure it's tuned for that same load because triggers act different. It can affect the tune.
You just opened another can of worms there.
Just gone down that road as well.
You can take that out in the middle of a match, put another one in, and if you're running out of time, you don't even have to put the trigger guard back on. You can just shoot with that trigger without the guard to save some time,
It just takes another variable out of it, doesn't it? You're worried about your action screws and all that sort of
It
stuff.
becomes like a Formula One car. They pull the tire out, put it right back on.
Well, that's why I like the concept of it, and that's why we did it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't disassemble a whole gun on a fire line, unless it's right at the beginning of the match and you have an issue.
You're gluing, aren't you, Erik?
Oh yeah, mine are glued in.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that guy across the table was my mentor, so
Yeah.
if he says glue in, then
I
glue
agree.
in it is.
No, I'm no argument.
Well,
with
I
that.
mean, in bench race, you wouldn't see a gun on the line that's capable of shooting the aggregates that we do that's not glued in. I mean, every once in a while somebody will show up with a conventionally bolted in gun that might win, but you don't see any consistency in the performance for an entire season.
Well, even if they are the same, let's just say even if they're the same, when I go to England and we get rained on, I don't worry about it.
Right.
Everybody gets back to the house and they're pulling their guns apart so they can dry them out, and I'm like, well, mine.
Brett Solomon, and like I said, he'll be down here this week too. When he first got into this, he told me, Speedy, I don't know you from Adam. He said, I want to build a gun. And I said, for what? He said, I want to shoot the F-Class Nationals. I think it was the first F-Class Nationals. And he said, I know it's only a month away, and I'm willing to pay whatever it costs to get a gun. And so I said, let me look. I looked everywhere. I couldn't find an action, a stock, a barrel, nothing. And at that point in time, it was a 6.5 284 was the king of the hill as far as 1,000-yard shooting. And I looked and I said, I don't know of anyone. I said, the only one that's available would be mine, and it's not cheap. And he said, I told you I didn't care about the money, So, and mine was glued in. And so he bought it and took it and shot it. And he and, not Kenny Trailer, who's the gentleman that shoots over the scope like that?
Oh, Cochran.
Yeah.
Jeff.
He and Cochran were in first place all the way through that thing. And it rained on him. He called out, hey, what do I do? My gun's soaking wet, And he said, everybody tells me I need to take the gun apart and then, put it back together for the next day. So, and I said, dude, that gun's glued in. You don't have to take it apart. They would love for you to take it apart, And I said, all you got to do is go get one of those little keyboard cleaners and spray it down.
Yeah.
And wash out your trigger, and you're good to go,
Yeah.
And the next day, he started in the lead again. He lost his first national, lost it by 1X, came in second place.
Wow.
And it was with a glued-in gun.
Yeah. Well,
Larry Bartholomew saw it, and he was all mad because Larry wanted that gun. And when he saw Solomon, what are you doing with blue?
Well, so yeah, I mean, so Speedy taught me how to chamber barrels, and he also taught me how to bed rifles. I had already bedded some rifles, not the Speedy way, but I learned from him how to bed rifles. I still don't bed rifles.
I don't blame you either.
I let Speedy do all my stuff. When it comes to bedding, he does it.
Well,
Pat Wood does all my finishing.
I appreciate it and I enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you do because I don't like bedding rifles. And I got some newer guys that are starting. I saw him; he was here earlier, and he's just getting a new rifle built. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Who's going to bet it?" Oh, I think I'm just going to do that myself. How important is betting, Speedy? Should a guy that's buying all the best of the components?
Besides this, that's probably the next most important thing out there. Besides being able to do load development and everything else. But I mean, as far as the gun's concerned, I mean that's why I just go crazy. That's why I built the tracking fixture, to be able to track stocks. When Tommy Shirley and Will McCluskey and now Dennis Ray started building stocks, they all send them to me where I can track it, see how true the outside portions of the stock are to the center line of it, And with Will McCluskey, I mean, we worked, I don't know how many stocks we checked before he was really just kind of like you. He was at that point in time, he was really wanting to make sure that they were symmetrical and that they were straight and parallel and perpendicular at points they had to be. And I mean, that's the only reason I built that fixture. When I bed the stocks, when I do the inletting on it, I do it on a tracking fixture, and I ensure that everything's on the center line of the stock.
So if you're starting out and you're getting your first rifle and you're like full blown custom stock, custom action, custom everything,
right?
Probably you probably shouldn't bet it yourself. Well,
that or have somebody that knows how to bed, come and let them mentor you a little bit. I had a text this morning about a guy wanting to bed his Bagheera, it's not an F-class gun. Yeah. He said that he was reading on Dr. Google about how to bed a gun, and it said just bed on two pads, one on the front, one on the back, and leave the center alone. That way, if it swells or flexes or anything, that it won't affect it. He says, and it says that the best thing is a straight line between 2 points. And I said, well, if it swells and bends in the middle, you don't have 2 points straight line anymore. It's got this, so. Yeah. I said, to me, like I said, that's the second most important thing. I mean, that, like you with some of your machines and you use CMM down there, you have to be anal about this stuff, if you want it to perform at a world-class level.
Yeah.
It's just like the gentleman that sent you his gun. He couldn't do anything, and then at the end of the test, he had a great success story. And I said, I'll leave that for the podcast, but it just shows what you can do with somebody's gun who invests a lot of money, and it's not right.
Yeah, that's a tough situation, and a lot of people are there, and they just don't even know.
Well, it's like those 2 bolts I got the other day. Here's twin bolts for the same gun, and one it was bottoming out on the nose of the cocking piece, down at the bottom of the cocking ram, and it was stopping the firing pin from moving out another 5 thousandths.
Peter John has that issue. I don't know if he got it fixed yet, but his it would bottom out every time he fired to the point that it'd break the cocking piece.
Yeah, well, especially if you got a roller bearing. I think he had a new boat, didn't he?
He had one with a roller.
Yeah,
and it break.
Yeah, I had a customer that came and picked up his action, and the roller was bottomed out on a new boat, and they sent him a new one that roller must have been moved back. They shortened that nose or something on it because the next one had clearance underneath it.
Yeah, all those things
is immaterial, whether it's 1,000th or
clearance is clearance.
Right. But you don't want so far back that you're starting halfway up that ramp before you start cocking it on opening.
So Gary Costello's here. Wake up.
Yeah, who's it? That's it. What?
So Dan Loma says, good to see Gary there.
Oh, that's nice. Hi, Dan.
Dan is an FTR shooter. Don't hold it against him.
Dan's a British champion, multiple British champion. He's a good shooter.
Yeah, I'm glad he's TR shooter, to be honest with you. Keep him
over
over there.
I think he's crossing that divide. I think he's coming over to open.
Uh-oh. He's, yeah, wow. Well, now we got to deal with that guy, too? Come on.
Yeah, you probably will this year, yeah.
Oh, well.
When you go
He's a Borden man, too.
Yeah, well, he's smart.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he shoots so well.
Yeah, it could well be. There's a trend setting up here, isn't there?
If I released a live stream on my other podcast, Believe the Target, with Jim Borton last week. It goes pretty in depth into what makes his actions shoot the way they do.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, he's
the only question I got on that podcast, and I was telling Gary about it on the way over here today. I asked him if he watched it. He said no.
I ain't seen it yet. No.
And the only question I bet you I've been asked 10 times that people watched it is when he's talking about the number on the Rico lugs. He was talking about the thickness of those lugs when he was saying like 420 or 489. I'm just giving the numbers out of the top of my head.
The height?
Yeah.
Yeah, not the actual thickness, right? Yeah, that'd be one thick Rico lug.
Yeah.
The height. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I mean, you've got the outside diameter of the lugs, but then you've got the thickness or the height of the lugs, you know.
Yeah, typically, what are they, like 250?
No, most of the time they're like 7/16, 437, something like that.
Well, now I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, draw it.
Have to give me an easel back here.
So Gary, in the meantime, while Speedy does his cartoon figurines over there, what's you shoot a WSM?
Yeah, 300 WSM.
And you got a prick?
I have got my own version, which is slightly different, but not massively different.
What's different about it?
Just a few Speedy mods on it.
Well, what about the cartridge?
Yeah, 6.5, necked up to 7mm, Lapua base, PRC.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm running
Let me
that.
sign my artwork for you.
I'm running that sort of with N555 and some of the other reloaded 16 I tried in there as well.
There's a 2024 edition for you.
All right, let's see what Speedy's got right here. All right, so that's terrible. I still have no idea what it is.
Well, that's the thickness of your lugs or the height of the lug.
Put it right there and explain it to us.
Here's your bolt body right here. I'll even draw a bolt face in here.
Okay.
You see that?
Oh, on the bolt lugs.
Yeah.
I kept thinking Rico lug this whole time.
He was talking about that dimension on lugs, and nobody understood what he was talking about.
Yeah, even with the drawing.
All right.
Okay, good. So,
but he was talking about those thickness of the lugs right there. That gives you your surface area where your lugs come. You remember he was talking about the Sharpie and all this, you know?
Yeah.
The not Sharpie, where you can shear these lugs off, and if you don't have enough bearing surface on it, that's another cause to make it real hard to open, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Remember he was talking about lug setback in the video?
Yes. The lug setback, I understood.
Yeah,
of course.
He was talking about the surface area.
You got to draw the other one. Otherwise, people are going to say, man, he's only got one lug on his action.
We sheared the other one off. That's what he was talking about.
Draw the other one.
Okay, well, this is going to be a short lug on this side. This is that new action that we're designing.
There you go. Now, a little bit higher so people can see. There you go. That's what the
I'll just cover it up right there.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Well, wrong side.
Yeah, got it.
There we go.
All right. Can we talk about the new action yet?
Black Knight?
Black Knight?
Black Knight.
Yes or not yet?
A little over a year ago, Jim and I started talking. We did the first one.
You did?
For Gary Costello. So it was all black and everything else. So all the other actions he had to that point were all polished stainless. And so when he got his first black one, he was like, "That's Black Knight."
Yeah, but you did some stuff to that as well.
Yeah, we did some things to that one. Well, with the help of Jim Borden, it wasn't just all me. You know, we had a discussion on it about what we wanted to do, and we started talking about in bench rest. There's really, only one action available to us nowadays. Well, there's several iterations of this version, but there's really only one that almost everybody shoots. And I said this would be a good time to introduce, another action or another flavor into the bunch, And he said, well, what would you like to see in it that I'm not already offering? Because he was already offering that Rimrock B, I believe. And so we discussed it, and I was surprised that he was really open to wanting to get back into bench rest, because that's, his stomping ground. That's where everything that he does, stemmed from. And we're going to offer different bolt configuration. All the modifications that I typically do to fire control are going to be incorporated into that. I'm anxious to get mine. Mine's going to be the bench rest version. The other Black Knight is going to be called the BKMXD, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Where's that one going?
That's going into Erik's. I think he's going to get the very first one. It's going to go into his new stocks.
So was mine the experiment then?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it worked really well.
Yours was the proof, and
it was really slick. That is the slickest action I've got.
Yeah. It's
the only problem with
I was kind of liking it myself.
The only problem with that one is some of the nitrides rubbed off, but Jim said, "Don't worry about it. It's still in the body." Just
that nitride, the black is just the oxide finish that develops in the process. The hardness is underneath that, So you're not wearing any of the hardness off or the slickness off.
It's just what it looks like. That's the only thing.
Yeah. You got some black paint, don't you?
I get a Sharpie out.
So this Black Knight, Speedy, what are the benefits versus, comparing it to a BRM XD that has become so popular in F-Class nowadays? Why would somebody get a Black Knight over a BRM XD?
Well, one thing, when you get it, all the fire control is going to be built into it, so we don't have to do any. If you get one, you don't have to send it to me to rework the fire control. Like anything else that's manufactured in quantity, sometimes you miss a little burr here or this there. If you just wanted to have it checked over, instead of costing $180 to $220 to blueprint it, it might be $60 just to go through it and make sure everything's correct. But I mean, the way that I've seen Jim change his attitude about quality, kind of like you here in this last 2 years, is just, he's investing more money into machines to improve the quality. I believe you could be doing some work with him on some of the parts.
Yeah, but so I mean, he already makes a great action on the BRM XD. That's what I'm saying. Like, what's this new action?
Should be easier to open up the bolt if he goes to the 3/4 inch diameter bolt body. You're going to have a longer moment arm when you're lifting it. You're going to have probably a higher ratio of bolt lift to cocking on that thing right there, so it'll make it easier to cock. He's going to incorporate more mass. I think on the bench rest one, he's going to allow us to add the tungsten weights to it, to where on our guns here, I got one? No, I didn't bring it. On a lot of the bats, especially the older ones like this one, it's got the 1/4 inch diameter firing pin. You see this boss on the end of the firing pin is real thin. So we've got a light firing pin and a small boss right here. So there's not a lot of mass here. In order to improve this, we used to add a tungsten weight to this and have it put a different spring in it to wind up with that same 22 to 24 pound spring in there, and that allowed us to, at 200 yards, to see the improvement in our groups.
Okay.
So on the Black Knight for the bench rest, I think it's just going to be called the Black Knight.
Okay.
For bench rest. It's Jim's action. He can call it whatever he wants, but I think that's what we've discussed to this point. It's going to, I think, have a bigger boss. It's going to be threaded in the back of the cocking piece, so we can add those weights externally. We used to make a set of 3 weights. We had an 1/8 inch one, a 1/4 inch one, and then one that was about 430 thousandths. So and a lot of people would get the entire set and never change them because they didn't want to take the time to,
Right.
say, oh, that big one's good enough,
Yeah.
and it would produce fantastic groups, but they never knew if they were missing out. Just like when you get the cocking piece, the hangers on the action, that you have different positions that you can place that trigger into. Whatever one that's in there, that's where they leave it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you ever try those other trigger hangers? No. And then they're mad because they didn't shoot well,
Yeah.
So, it's part of the reloading process, just like you check the base to ogive of your bullets. We talk about checking diameters from lot to lot of bullets right there, and we showed Gary yesterday the indicating micrometer that we used to do that. So, it's just one of those things that if you want to, wring out the last bit of accuracy in your gun, that you need to test it. So with the Borden Black Knight, we're going to be able to do that without disassembling anything. The weight will be back here in the back, and so we can add and take mass off and check it. We can take the standard firing pin as it is, add weight to it. We don't have to have change springs or anything else. We use that same spring. We'll just be adding mass to it.
Right. Okay. So it's gonna have some goodies. It's gonna be a better action.
Yeah,
You
may wind up making those weights.
So the bottom line is he's gonna take the BRM XD
Right.
and improve on it.
Right.
And this is where pretty much gonna be this next iteration of the BRM XD.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yep. Well, I said he's taking this. The BRM XD is basically a heavy bench press action, because that short bolt and that just standard Remington 700 length bolt. You use a standard 700 length spring when you change them out.
Right.
I think that's what you do.
Yep.
Yeah, you can call Wolf and get a 28-pound spring and
Yep.
throw it in there.
Yep.
So that's the standards, and that's the bench press action the same way. They probably have that same.
So bottom line is gonna be a better action.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Can't wait.
I can't wait.
I've got both the standard Borden BRMXD and the Black Knight, and there's anybody could tell the difference just by lifting the bolt.
Yeah.
And it's smooth. Nothing wrong with the BRMXD, but this thing is just a different level.
And like I said, I kind of cried and teared up when I left the shop. After playing with that thing, I wanted to keep it.
All right. So go back to your bolt thing.
Well, I said we've been talking a lot about changing springs, and when you do that, you'll notice too that there's a lot of times there's left and right hand wind. Try to say that 3 times real fast. Left and right hand winds on the springs, and in engineering terms, if it's on a smooth shaft or when you're using a compression spring, it really shouldn't make any difference as the springs are of equal weight and the wires the same and the spacing the same and the number of coils is the same. But if you get a firing pin and it's like this, that's been etched, and it's all right if you feel that, Erik, and you can feel the grooves that are now in it.
Oh yeah.
And so they've got the wind of the other spring in there. So I don't know if that was a right hand wind or left hand wind.
And hang on, let me see if I can show this, because this is pretty crazy. Show it on your camera.
Yeah, there it is.
Look at that.
You see how the old spring, it looked like it was doing a little coil binding in there, and it must have gotten wet, and it etched the grooves of the wire into that. You can feel them.
You can feel it.
See it.
Yeah. So, I could polish it out and it would go away, but if the other average guy didn't know anything, he just wanted to change spring on it, and he had that wind on there, and he got one of the springs that had the opposite wind, they're working against each other. Just like if you have a spring in a spring for some reason, you always want to have opposite winds in there so that they don't want to mesh and wind, get all mixed up with each other. Did you feel that, Gary?
I can see it from here.
Yeah, feel it. So,
Yeah.
it's.
Oh yeah, it's right in there.
So, in that situation, if you change the springs, if you had identical weight springs and the coil spacing was identical and everything, and it was wound opposite. And you can see these springs if you look at them. One, let's see, are these the same? No, you can see how one is wound to the left and one is wound to the right. When you see the ends open on them.
See if we can show this.
See how one coil's one direction and the other coil's the other direction. When you look at the winds right on the very end for the spring.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah. See how that winds.
That way.
Yeah. And the other one winds the other direction.
Yep, right there.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
one goes this way.
Right. So let's just say that one was the original spring out here that you're replacing, the other one was the new one.
Wait,
Yeah.
these are both the same speed.
Well, maybe this is the one that's wound opposite.
Yeah. The point is, there's right and left.
Yep.
And doesn't David Tubb sell?
Yeah, because he's got two springs counteracting each other, so like I say, you don't want them to start meshing with each other because that's what they'll do.
Right.
But anyway, so if you've got this and you put a spring on there, it should follow that helix that spring put on here. If you weren't, able to polish all that out. And then again, when you change that dimension, other things happen. You got it's looser inside the shroud and everything. So I mean, to me, I would probably just replace that, but some people won't do that.
Yeah.
The other thing that you can show is on this spring. This one guy sent me, and it was also for one of these 1/4-inch firing pins. He said, I don't know, but I can't get the spring to go on. And if you look at the ends, you'll see when they closed them and ground those ends of the spring. Look at take that pin out there and show the spring. You see how when they flatten that out and ground it, it's got that razor sharp edge in there.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through this with Gary at the shop yesterday. When we replaced those springs, I've got one of these little.
That's in there.
It ain't coming out, so it's not going on either. We would take. I've got a little carbide chamfering mandrel, and I've got it set up in the machine where it turns where I don't have to get carpal tunnel syndrome. But if you're only doing 1 or 2 a year, it won't hurt you. You can just
higher up.
You can take this chamfering tool. I don't want to get all this metal on your desk, but we'll wipe it off. And you can hear how crunchy it is.
Mm.
So we want to, from that open end, you can't see it.
Oh, here. Right there. You gotta put your hand in front of it like that. There. Higher. Oh, mine's already set.
Okay.
Here, I'll do yours.
You see where the spring terminates at the open end right there?
This one?
Either side's got where the spring finishes winding.
Yeah.
You can just say flatten that one out a little bit too much.
Yeah, drastically.
Yeah, it's got a burr on the outside and the inside. Well, if you don't chamfer those springs, it's just like a razor blade in there, and you'll see where it actually. In fact, on this one you can see it. There's a line right there. See that line right there? You see how that spring's cutting into it? Yeah, see that line? Yeah. So as that firing pin is moving forward, that sharp razor edge is cutting into that firing pin. It's also, losing potential energy. It's not being converted very well to kinetic energy. Oh, well, this one is so bad here that the whole.
Yeah, it's on the outside.
This one is the chamfering tool actually opened up the coil on the end. But now, this is just like.
Yep.
Just drop right in. Now the other side, it's still locked in here. But you have to use a carbide chamfering tool, so you can buy these from Sinclair or Holland. And they'll either call them 28 or 14 degree VLD chamfering tools. Yeah, these got to be ground on the outside and put on the sander to get rid of that spring flaring out. So now this should be able to go either end. And had that gentleman known that, he could have just done that himself at the house. But anytime you change springs, you should chamfer the inside of those. Happy.
So now I should be able to do this.
Yep.
And that's it. I mean, bottom line, obviously don't drop it.
Yeah.
But if it's a good one, don't drop it. Yeah. Well, that's what they did on the podcast.
Is that what happens when we don't bring you your coffee latte?
Yeah. So cool.
Here's the thing we used to do in the old days to some of these shrouds, if you want to look and show that on your camera. When that hole was too large inside the shroud,
well, you bushed it.
We would put a bronze bushing in there. And then if you look in there, you can see that it's also backboard like you did on the new ones.
Hey. Giving away too much, man.
Well, you see what's coming.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I gotta bite my tongue until it comes out.
Yeah. We're working some really cool stuff.
This is another
after learning.
Example.
Hold up, Speedy.
Okay.
I said we're working on some really cool stuff after. I mean, I know we keep showing you guys all this stuff, but you have no place to actually go and get this stuff. So we're gonna work. Speedy and I are working on really good, cool stuff. We're gonna release very soon. So hang tight. Take it away, Speedy.
Here's another example where you would want to get the spring. See how these fit in here. That's a big one. This part here. Yeah, this is that spring matches the helix that you see on that firing pin. Is that, as you start to compress it, it starts to slightly bind up because there's a little bit of difference between the ID of that spring and the OD of that firing pin.
Right.
So you've got a helix, just like if you were to have a spring and a spring,
Yeah. So, when you start to compress it.
Yeah, you can see it'll start binding into those flutes right there.
It does. You can probably hear it. Hang on. See here, it just slides fine.
Yeah.
Ow.
It's starting to want to
You
go.
You can hear it all the way over
Ow,
there.
that's painful.
Yeah.
What happens is you've got a solid diameter, and then where that flute is at, that diameter is smaller, and then when it comes back up to the end of that flute, that diameter comes to full diameter again. So every one of these coils, when you start to compress it, is wanting to go into those flutes. And you hear it going, it's going in and out.
So you don't like fluted?
No, I said, you want this mass, and they do that supposedly to decrease your lock time, but whatever benefit a decreased lock time, you may lose it by decreasing the mass and having to have a heavier spring in order to make sure that you get proper ignition on with your primers. So, I said it's just something that we've been talking about, changing springs and stuff all the time, but it's not just as easy as buying a wool spring and throwing it on there and going to shoot, The wool springs, just about any manufacturer I've seen, unless you order them special and have them chamfer those insides of those springs. So most spring manufacturers will do whatever you want, as long as you specify it, but they don't know, it might be going on a die set that's moving up and down. Those ends don't make any difference, It's not, you don't have a firing pin moving through it, where it's just captured on both ends and it's compressing going up. In our case, we've got something that's moving through that spring that we need to address to make sure that we're not losing potential energy that's being converted to kinetic energy by drag it on the spring, firing pin, or drag it on those flutes, or drag it on some marks that were induced onto the firing pin by rust. You know, I mean, this you can probably hear that.
Yep.
It's bad. They're probably 3,000 or 4,000 deep, if not more. On some of
Now, where did you get those from? Like somebody actually brought you those firing pins. They were, I assume, they were in a rifle, and they're like, "Hey, Speedy, for some reason my rifle."
This one was the one that just came to the shop. You know, he had two problems. He couldn't get the firing pin spring on it, and then when we took the old one off, it didn't want to come off very easy. It kind of like was trying to mate with this thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just. So this one, if it was already loose at one time to begin with, because that's what we had already bushed this thing.
Yeah.
And he heard one of our podcasts where we were talking about how often we change firing pin springs. And there again, that's another thing you need to check once you get the spring, make sure that it's like you said earlier, it's of the weight that you thought you were getting. You know.
Yeah, people need to learn how to check weights and how to, if everybody on my forum should know by now because I showed them how to do it when we were modifying that other one. But it's quite simple. Can you give us a quick rundown on the easiest way?
Well, I mean, the easy peasy way of doing it is to have like a good digital scale. It's not super precise. I've got one of the test stands where I can measure how much compression I'm getting, and so if I know that the firing pin fall is like it was mentioned on Jim Bourne, is 250,000. I think that's what his average was.
Right.
So with that, I can put the spring in here, so it's already under a little bit of compression, and so I can move my test stand where it compresses the entire fire control assembly 250,000, and it's measured on the scale as to how much force it's taken to move it that 250,000.
Right.
So if this is supposed to be a 24-pound spring and it's 22 pounds, well, that's a considerable difference. Maybe a couple ounces.
It's about 10%.
One way or the other. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the easy way to do it, just to check and see if the spring that you got is pretty close to what you had on there. We just take one of those nylon bench blocks that has a hole in it. You can put this in it, and then on the bats, usually when that fire control is moved the correct distance, you can feel that. I mean, you can. That sounds so bad, doesn't it?
It's terrible.
Well, when you feel this tail on this cocking piece go through this, that's usually about the right compression. Oh, that sounds bad. So when you do that, that's probably what you showed them how to do on the podcast. Yeah. So you're just taking this and you've got it on a digital scale. First you lay on your parts on there.
Yep.
And tear it.
Yep.
And then so that you know that you're not weighing anything excessive. And then, like I say, you put it inside that bench block to protect your firing pin so you don't bend it. And then you just compress it on the bat.
Right.
Where you feel that tail come through. That's pretty good average on that. And with the Remington style, like the Borden or most of the other clones, you can usually see that there's 30 to 40 thousandths of that cocking piece sticking out past the shroud, and you can kind of visually see that. So I mean, it's just a good quick check. It's not an exact check, but it gives you can see what you've got in the gun already and do it. And if it measures to whatever point you've got, I'm gonna say 20 pounds, put the new one in, it's showing 24. It's pretty close to what it's got, what it's supposed to be.
How often should they check that?
Well, springs of different type of wire, and a lot of people, spring makers use a music wire, and then they've got different metallurgical compositions of those springs that can change how much that spring sets, if at all. A lot of things the first thing you want to do when I get a spring, if I get a new spring from a manufacturer, I'll get the well, here's a good example, 2 springs for the same action from the manufacturer. So, I mean, from there you can see that there's a little bit difference in length, but you can also see that there's a difference in the number of coils. Look at this one, and look at that one.
Right.
They're same length, same ID, same OD, but the length of the coil, I mean, the number of the coils is different. Also, the spacing in the coils is different. So you may or may not get different performance. This one, you know, when you start to compress it, the coils are gonna get closer together, you know, so you may not have the, you know, right rate of expansion that you need to get the maximum accuracy out of your gun. Or it might be this one. You don't know.
So what would you do? Just test it?
I would test it. The first thing I would question is why
they're
this
different.
one and why that one from the manufacturer, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this one is liable to, when you have it fully compressed, let's just say that you had one of the hangers that goes from 0 to 30 or 40 thousandths difference in cocking. This one may, at 40 thousandths, close up, and that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to ever have to close those springs that close together, you know? You want to leave some gap between them. So, you know, all those things are just something you need to look at. I said, like I said, from same manufacturer, two completely different looking springs.
So here's a question that I always do this, but I'm not sure if everybody else does. I always decock the bolt.
Oh, yeah.
Always. Now,
Yeah, well,
I see lots of people, they put
that's the way that spring's going to set itself.
well, I always see people, and most of the time you see a bolt and it's still cocked.
Well, the ones that almost always do it are those guys that when they get home, they put their guns in the guns, they take the bolt out of the gun, put it up on the top shelf of the safe, you know. That thing is always cocked at
Just
that
decock
point.
it.
Yeah, decock it.
Yeah.
Even when I'm cleaning guns at the house or something, I'll take the bolt out, and I know I uncock it. I've got the
It's a big thing for me now. I always have to make sure it gets put away as decocked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can see how big an issue this actually is. You know, it's not minor. It's the heart of the gun. It's just like if you've got when you had heart issues. You know, it don't matter how healthy the rest of your body was. You know, if the heart is not happy, yeah,
No.
so things aren't going to be happy very long. So I hate to use that for an example.
No, it's true. It's all true.
Well, very interesting. So, some of the questions here. Said, let's hear some Speedy jokes about F-class shooters. You don't want to hear those.
We haven't got long enough, have we?
Well, I do participate in F class occasionally, but it's not very seriously. You know, that'd be a good thing to do, Eric. Take a bench race shooter and make him a winning F class shooter.
That's not going to be that hard to do, I don't think. You know, I mean, they already know how to shoot. They already. So, you take a winning anybody, and it's not hard to make them a winner somewhere else because a lot of it is mental, right? They already know how to deal with pressure,
right?
Which is where most people fall apart. I always tell people that I can make a good shooter in 1 year out of anybody, but making a winner out of somebody, it may never happen,
right?
You know, so
I mean, when you're going through the cycle of learning to shoot and becoming a winner, you can have the best guns and the best equipment and everything, but and you have to put yourself in a position to win, but then you have to know how to win.
Right. That's what I mean.
And I said, I've won a lot of matches because I'm not afraid to lose. So I'll take those chances that are necessary to win, you know, and sometimes it pays off and sometimes, you know, it was
the biggest thing is I see is that newer shooters are afraid to lose.
Mm-hmm. That's what I say. I'm not afraid to lose. And you know, and people in your position, in my position, and Gary's position, when you're competing at a high level, everybody expects you to perform. You know, you're like the monkey out there. They want to see Erik do good. Well, why didn't you shoot? How come you didn't win? You know, what happened? You know.
Yeah.
And you probably have the same.
You're the man to beat. You've got the target on your back. The moment you win something, and we've discussed this before, Erik and I, you are that person that you benchmarked.
Right. So I say, yeah,
I beat him. No matter what you're doing, whatever you think, you've got a new load, new gun, you're testing something.
Right. Well, I said, Tony Boyer always used to wear that little camouflage hat, you know, and it looked like a little trout fishing hat. I don't know what it was. And you know, he wasn't of very high stature. And so usually when in a crowd, you'd see the hat. You know, you wouldn't see Tony Boyer. But everybody knew the hat. And as soon as they'd see that hat, they said, well, we're shooting for second place. They had already
given up.
Yeah, they already conceded to Tony was there, and there was no chance of them winning, you know.
So I have somebody in the comments here. It says, challenge accepted. I will dedicate a year. I'm a four-sport athlete, 15 years of coaching. I am down to be the test subject. So got a question for you.
Okay.
For him, four-sport athlete. How many national championships do you have in any of those sports?
Me?
No, him.
Oh, him. Okay.
Because four-sport athlete, you know, and he's been coaching for 15 years. The question is, how many national championships do you have in any of those sports? Because that's literally what we're talking about.
Right.
You know, it's not, you know, many people can do million sports, you know. It's that last fraction that makes you a winner. Right?
Any reply?
No. I'm waiting, but right. I mean, because people, you know, like that. So I'm a four-sport athlete, and I've been coaching for 15 years. That's great.
Well, the dedication it requires to become a national champion or a world champion is the next level up. You know, it's you eat it, you sleep it, you live it, you discuss it. You know, you go to bed thinking about it. Your wife and kids think you're crazy. You know,
they know.
And,
well, you know,
it's almost an obsession. You know,
the one red flag that I see here is four-sport athlete.
Yeah.
Do you have time for four sports if you're trying to?
Well, I shot many disciplines at one time when I first got. I just love to shoot. It didn't make any difference what it was. I was shooting bullseye pistol. I was shooting 22 rimfire pistol silhouette, high power pistol silhouette, rimfire silhouette, rifle silhouette, high power rifle silhouette, bowling pin, and then I was shooting hunter class and bench rest, and I was shooting group and bench rest. And I was pretty good at all of them.
Well,
I wasn't a champion
at any, right?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. You know, I think if you want to be a champion, you need to just focus on one.
Right. So I had to reevaluate all my situations. I said, you know, I got into all of this because I wanted to be a national bench rest shooting champion. That was my goal. I read that book, The Accurate Rifle by Warren Page, and he said in one of the articles he was talking about shooting through the swimming pool and out in Midland. I said, Midland? That's right over here.
Yeah.
And so I checked, and sure enough, there's a still active club, and that's where I got my first Hall of Fame point.
Yeah, you know, so we have somebody else here saying you should have asked him if he was married or has kids. Good luck dedicating the time needed if you do.
I used to take my two girls with me to the matches because my wife said, if you're going to be gone all these weekends, I'm not going to babysit them. And I mean, she had a good excuse because I could have a pretty easy life going out with the friends, shooting and all that, coming back, and where's my dinner, you know? But she said, if you're going to shoot, you take your two daughters with you. And they used to sit at the bench with me. And I'd be in the middle of a group. They'd be, Daddy, what? Here's another good luck kiss, you know. Well, I couldn't have them running around the range and possibly walking in front of a rifle.
Yeah.
You know, so even though they said they'll stay there, I don't know how many times I caught them go, I went to the restroom, you know. I didn't know. So I said, sit right here.
Yeah, you know, I'm married with kids, and that's my point. Like, you can't have four sports. It's going to be tough enough as it is.
Right.
And I mean, Gary has dogs.
Yeah, the dogs. They don't mind. They come with me sometimes. They're pretty good. But I mean, I've got two disciplines, F class and ELR, and it's tricky,
Yeah.
really tricky to do both, and I really like doing both. So there's other types of shooting I'd love to do, which occasionally I get to do, but you can't win at it. You can't be competitive. I mean, to be competitive, you have to dedicate everything.
I thought I was going to like ELR, but the only thing I didn't like about it was the distances you had to travel for the number of shots that you shot.
Well, yeah.
And it was kind of like what makes V2 so appealing is that V2 is a competition in the series, and you're shooting numbers around, and the shooting is equal at the time you're shooting, where on ELR, for me to travel to the Whittington Center, it's a 12-hour drive to shoot 19 shots, and if you just on qualifying, if you happen to draw at the end of the day when the conditions come up there at the Whittington Center, you have no chance of placing. The guys in the morning have no conditions, and the guys in the afternoon, that wind's blowing 30, 40 miles an hour from every direction, as Erik can attest to.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: if in ELR, if they drew spots before the competition, how many people would actually show up?
I said, to me, it's I don't know if you can, I won't be bitching about them because it's the sport itself is exhilarating, and shooting at those distance and the guns and the capability of shooting. Shooting a mile is like shooting 100 yards with a 375 SciTac. It's nothing. We had, when I got mine built, 5 of us went, and they want to watch me shoot my gun, and Peter Johns was one of them. And none of us missed the target at a mile. It was like nothing. And Peter Johns goes, I told him, I said, give me a left edge. He goes, you can't fucking win at a mile. I said, I can see the rod stages out there, it just isn't. It's like, there's nothing to it.
It's like our wind at 1,000 yards with an F-class gun.
Yeah.
For a mile.
Right.
It's like calling wind at 1,000.
So, the guns are fun to load for and shoot. The power of those things and the accuracy capability of them. And, if you never shot one, it's worth, it's exhilarating.
Oh, it's a rush. Yeah.
It's, you're shooting something that it can reach out and, you will die tired if you try to run from one of those guys.
Oh, that's scary. They're a scary thing. When you see what it does to steel at a mile, that's something else.
But the thing that I didn't like about it, just to drive that distance for. I'd like to shoot like an aggregate, for 3 days or something, and where you change. You shoot in the morning one time, afternoon, if they're going to keep that same format at the end of the day, and then you have an aggregate of those 3 days.
That would be good. We got to drive to France. I got to drive to France and then fly to Italy to shoot ELR because there's nothing in the UK as yet.
Don't move Texas.
Yeah. Well, we still haven't heard back from the guy that said he would dedicate some time. So there you go.
Well, there we go.
Anyway, anything else, Speedy? Whoa. He just responded. Let me take that back. He says, should be clear. I grew up in a 4-sport athlete, then college athlete, 0 national championships. But when I was 17, I squatted 525, bench 3. None of that matters. They're not, I get what you're saying, but this is what I mean. Yeah. Like that's pretty impressive. But
I'm not wanting to discount his achievements either. But to me, when I shot competitively, the only thing that matters, the only way to get into the Hall of Fame is to get points at the Nationals. I don't care if you win every Texas State match, every Gulf Coast, every regional match. You get no points. So all those matches to me were preparations for the Nationals, because that's the only place you can get any points. And if you don't win a national championship, you're never going to get into that Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And he's saying I squatted 525, bench 375, deadlift 505. Square 225 by 50, and I ran a 468 mile. I am a competitor. Yes, I can see that. There's a lot of competitors. However, champions are the next level.
You can see that in the standings at the Nationals. There's a lot of people that are there that shoot pretty good.
They work really hard.
And, you know, but there's a handful that, you know, you're going to have to get past them if you have any chance to want to win, you know.
Where are you at on this, Gary?
It takes a lot to win. I mean, you could have 15, 20 guys that can do it. They've got the equipment to do it, but on the day, everything has to work. Yeah. You've got to have your headset, you've got to have your accurate gun, you've got to see the wind, and you've got to have some luck. Mm-hmm. You know, and that all doesn't come together in one, well, it does occasionally, but you can't do it all the time.
Yeah, that's what I tell all the guys that I shoot with. I said, you know, they all set goals. And what we do when we shoot either our club match or a regional match or Texas State or a Gulf Coast regional, we'll have a mentorship meeting at my shop the week afterwards, and we'll have all our target. We'll discuss what they did and what they didn't do. And then, but the whole deal is, you know, once you learn how to shoot, then you have to learn how to win. And learn how to win is difficult. You know, it's a block that you have in your head that you think you can't achieve. You know, because I mean, really, everything's against you when you look at the number of people, especially in F class. Man, that, like I said, those scores have gotten so competitive. You know, you can't even think of dropping almost an X nowadays. You know.
And then you've got to handle the pressure. Yeah. The pressure is everything. So if you're leading or you're second or third on the first day.
Yeah, you get that, hey, Erik, one more string like that, you got it, right?
Yeah. And you
and then you go, you melt after that.
Well, I think some guys do that on purpose and some guys don't.
Yeah, there's always that gamesmanship or, you know, I mean, that's part of the deal, you know.
But holding it together through 2 or 3 days of a championship, that is a test. And, you know, guys...
Yeah, it's almost an endurance contest.
Yeah.
Especially in F class when you were having to pull targets and everything else. Whew.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. None of it's easy.
Well, that's why you got to do it like I do, Gary, where I fall behind on day 1 and 2, and then day 3 I just shoot to the front.
Well, that's rare, though. That is rare. To get something like that, I mean, you got to be seeing a lot more than everybody else or doing something very, very right, you know, to come forward like that is... you know, there's always that top 5, 6, and then if you get conditions and the relays are different, then that's where you see all the differences.
That was one of my favorite things of F class, was being on the second or third relay and driving down to the pits and the flags are just hanging around the flagpole. And then when you come out,
you got your work cut out. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, everybody's, I shot clean. Yeah, I got 20 X's on that. I got it. Like,
well, this happened at the Europeans that Erik was at. We had a...
You had a Texas day.
We had we had the first detail after lunch, and it really kicked up big time. And loads of guys just dropped, you know, 5, 6, 7 points, and then the next 2 came in, you know, cleans and 1 point off, and you can't come back from that. You're done.
Yeah. Well, you got that new gun for me, and you said that you know, you haven't even had time to shoot it because of the weather.
Yeah.
And you can see what we've got here. So
yeah.
You know.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey. But, I came. All I know is I came to your range.
No, you did good. You did good.
Thank you.
Erik's got a pretty good strategy about moving range to ranges. He looks at the weather and what it's going to be in the country that, you know.
Hey.
Oh, you spill the beans on that one. I'll say, I can't believe Erik's telling all that.
The beauty about living in Texas is we get every weather from all over the world.
It'll change.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you had beautiful Texas weather all week, didn't you?
In Bisley, yes. Everybody was melting, and I'm just
loving it,
licking my ice cream cone. Everybody's just dying over there. But no, I mean, you know, it's part of it, right? It's. I also did well when I was getting rained on, and you know, the type of stuff that I'm not used to, right? But that's my point, right? Like, how did we do so well? Because it's the same Americans that do well here, right? There's a lot of it up here. That's all I'm saying. Africa. Yeah, I mean, it's the same, you know, and it's a lot of it is up here. Is what I'm getting at. And I mean, you have it, Gary. You know what it's like. It's just that switch, right?
Yeah, usually when you get a crew like that in a team, you know, I mean, they're you feed off each other. You know, you can't fail for the team. You know, it's well,
if they've all got good guns and they've got their heads together, then they're hard to beat. Particularly if they've got the right mindset, for sure.
right. Well, I mean, usually when you're on a good team, you start improving all your equipment to match the rest of them out there. That's the beauty of a team. You can exchange information and say, but that sucks.
Yeah.
Don't bring that again. I'm not going to be bringing my rifle for you every time.
Yeah, no, it's good to get some accurate rifles together, and you know, the good team is the guys that have accurate rifles and good trigger pullers.
Well, I like Erik's concept where the whole team shoots the same cartridge and everything, you know, so that if how they had some extra ammo at the World and they were able to move that into the line. So, I mean, that's how I am with my guns. You know, I had a failure last year when I was trying to win the shooter of the year, and I went and grabbed my other gun real quick and came back with like a minute left to shoot to my group, and I didn't even bring the ammo from the other gun because I knew this one I had on the bench was exactly the same load, same bullet, same depth, neck tension. I just put the ammo on that gun and shot a nice little group out there at 200.
So I run a second gun, probably like Erik, and I like to have them working on the same ammo.
Yeah.
And that's where the tuners come in, and that's where having two rifles of the same, you know, you can swap them out. It might not be quite as good, but if you've got a failure, you've got something to back up, and you've got a team gun as well.
Right. Well, I got two tuner questions for you, Erik.
Uh-oh.
So, down in the Cortina Precision Hall over there this morning, you and I had talked about moving the tuner out past the muzzle, and you had some examples of your testing. Do you have a video coming up on this testing? Or?
That's why I don't like showing him anything, Gary. He just spills the beans on everything.
You know, my job is to interrogate. Is that something that's coming in on the video, and wait?
We will. Yes, the short answer is yes. This is some of the stuff that I want to show eventually on my forum. All this stuff goes on the forum.
The shooting season's starting now, so
yeah. But I am not set up to show it.
Okay.
And it goes
there
beyond.
There is some testing going on.
Yes, there's always testing going on. You know, and there's been. I test everything. You know, when I have people on the podcast, I may disagree with them on the air. You know, and it's not that I disagree. I push back because I really want to understand. And when I'm pushing back, it's usually because I don't understand.
Right.
But after the podcast is done, I'll typically watch it once or twice more when I'm editing, and then when I'm driving in the car, I play it and I really listen because there's a lot of stuff that I miss while I'm talking to them.
Right.
You know. And then I just go test it, you know. It's like, hey, there's always a chance that I'm wrong. That's typically my default. I'm like, let me go test it. And I go test a lot of stuff, and, you know, most of it either it doesn't help or maybe I get the same results, but some of it, every now and then, there's something there. So, yeah, I'm always testing. Especially like now that I'm getting into the off year, you know, like 26 is the World Championship. So I get a couple of years to play around and test different stuff to see if there's something better out there.
You talking about the gases this morning, and my headphones were cutting out when we were in your shop. Is that something you can explain one more time?
The what?
The gases within inside the muzzle brakes and all that, or is that something that's proprietary?
Well, our tuner brakes have a big hole. Is that what you're talking about? The expansion chamber?
Right. Well, we were talking about.
Yeah, that we can't talk about that one.
Okay.
That's not mine to share.
Okay.
But yeah, so you know, our brakes have an expansion chamber because you need to get those gases away from the bullet as soon as possible, and you know that's nothing new, right? Yeah. But that other thing I was telling you about, it's not mine. I'm sure it's going to be coming out soon.
On your podcast or somebody else?
No, somebody else's.
Okay.
You know, like I said, they told me about it, and I was like, "Oh, that was very interesting."
Okay. Yeah, now I remember.
That was very interesting. So, but anyway, there's always testing going on.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, on my forum, I'm always, you know, posting stuff that, you know, the files that you share with me, they go on the forum, all that good stuff.
So at this point in time, if you had a new guy coming on to the F-class thing, and he calls and says, "I'd like to order a tuner for my gun. Would you recommend the direct thread just based on your little short testing you've done, or go ahead and get the extension?"
I know the answer to this.
Huh?
I know the answer to this.
Well, it depends. You guys didn't even notice this when you went to the reloading room, which I was literally one at a time to see how long it was going to take you, and neither of you picked up on
There's too much to see in there.
on my
They're
rifle.
everywhere.
Well, my rifle was sitting right there, and I was like, "Uh-oh."
Well, I never walked that far.
Yeah. So,
Gary was blocking my way. He was rubbing on your purple gun, about rubbing the finish off it.
well, that's the one I'm
I
talking
was just
about.
messing with his scope. It's fine.
Yeah.
How
So,
do these clicks feel on this collie?
so,
You may be about 30 minutes off.
so, instead of cutting off that 1 inch on that barrel like you're supposed to, I got a machine shop in there.
Yeah.
I just counterboard, and that puts the tuner in front,
Okay.
right? So I'm like, why am I going to take it off and then put it right back on? So
Right.
I'm actually testing that on that barrel.
Okay.
So as far as giving you an absolute definite answer, I don't know yet, but it appears from the. So what we did is we made longer and longer extensions
Right.
to see if it made a difference, and it does. The thing I didn't like about it is having to clean that inside of it.
That's the problem.
But when I was at SHOT Show, I also has these big brushes that are meant to clean buffer tubes for AR-15s, and I go, these are perfect. So I'm gonna get some of those brushes, and but that's the only thing. But I'm playing around with it. It seems to affect the tuner a little better, in a sense of you get a little bit more adjustment out of the tuner, but still in testing. I don't have a definite answer yet, because I want to. I like.
Not of any. If
It's not, and it's not going to hurt anything.
It's not going to be of any detriment to the.
No.
So if a shooter just wanted to play around with it, would you recommend let's get the whole extension and the tuner?
Yeah.
Play.
Yes. Yeah. You can do that.
That was one of John and I, like we mentioned before, in bench rest, every tuner is past the muzzle.
Right. Yeah. I mean.
My second question.
Yeah.
To not so much for me, but for new shooters. A tuner. We know, even though there's a lot of doubters out there, I've seen the effects of a tuner. Gary's seen the effects of a tuner. You've definitely proven the effects.
Oh,
of
wait
a
a minute.
tuner.
Well, let's ask Gary. We haven't asked Gary. We're making an assumption here.
What are you going to ask me?
Gary, world F-class champion.
Mm-hmm.
Tuners, do they work or not?
Oh, yeah. Every barrel I have has a tuner. Full stop, the end. They get you out of jail. They improve your groups. They give you some extra tool in your box to fix things. So, yeah, I wouldn't be without a tuner for sure. I mean,
Okay.
we sell them. We sell them in the UK. I believe in them.
Yeah. Well, now they're going to say, well, of course he believes in them. He sells them.
No, I only sell anything that I actually believe in that works. I won't sell anything that I don't think will work.
Well, you not only do you sell them, you use them yourself.
Absolutely, 100%.
And,
And I like the new V2 with the extension, personally.
Okay.
That's my thing.
And that's why I'm trying it, because, Speedy's, big proponent of it. I know you like them, and I had a talk with you, and I said, hey, and you're like, I like them with an extension. I said, okay, so like I said, you guys saw the extension. You guys saw the testing I've been doing. I'm, like I said, if you guys tell me something, I'm going to test it. Because, guess what? 2 years ago, I went to Europe, and I got Gary by 1V. I want to get him by many points. No, I'm talking about it's. I'm looking for the biggest advantage that I can find, and it's too close. I mean, the matches are too close. I want to blow you guys away, and I'm sure you'd like to do the same, right? That's what we're all after.
Yeah.
So in the line of blowing people away, the question I get is that tuners work, but like John Myers had the opportunity. No, that's not the good word. He had the knowledge of moving the tuner prior to things going south on it. So I mean, with all the database, and you've seen it,
Right.
I've seen it. He, instead of going to the line and shooting and then find out he had a problem and trying to adjust for the next match and trying to catch up for anything ground he may have lost, he would adjust that tuner, based on certain atmospherics prior to shooting that match. So, is there anything that you could garner to a new shooter who's got his first tuner to say, this might help you before you shot and found out that you need a tuner adjustment?
New shooters, I'm going to recommend that they find a wide window, put the tuner in the middle, leave it alone. They're not experienced enough.
Yeah.
You don't want to throw more at them
right
now. If you're a fresh, kind of a green shooter, they're probably losing more shots on the improper back setup or the improper gun handling. That's probably where their shots are going. If you tell them to go start moving that tuner, it's going to be way more than they need, right? And the more advanced shooters,
So let's just say they get into that window, and in your experience with all the barrels you've had, and maybe Gary can chime into this one as well. What is a window as far as revolutions?
The way I tell people to do it is shoot, keep your tuner at 0, work up your whole load, right? And once you're satisfied, then start turning the tuner.
Right. Well, now that your tuners can move forward and back, because the old DC tuners, you were up against the shoulder and you had one direction to go. Well, you would finally get there, but then you had to.
Well, these are the same. You can only go one direction.
Yeah.
When you get them, you can only go in. If you go out, you're going to screw it off, and then the spring's going to have no tension.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why we did it that way, because I want everybody to, when they get them and they start tuning, they start compressing the spring even more.
Mm-hmm.
If I let them, and then how far can you go until you can't turn it anymore?
Yeah.
Right. But if I did it in and working out, then they're going to go until it falls off.
Regardless.
Well, it would fall off, and then there'd be a problem, right? So that's why we just flipped it around and said, okay, now you got to go the other way.
Yeah.
It's still the same thing.
Right.
But, what I say
if
is...
I start on 0, I'm a new guy. I just bought my new Cortina tuner. All my friends are jealous because they don't have one, And so now I got to go prove that my tuner's working. How far typically would I have to go?
So I recommend go with a V2 tuner. You can go 5 marks or you can go 10, right? And shoot
how
your
many
group.
marks are there?
There's 50.
Around one revolution?
One revolution's 50. So that's 5 different groups. So you can go every 10. And once you find a group, because I used to say go pretty fine and then try to find 2 groups in a row.
Yeah.
Now you can go every 10 marks, right? And then if you find a good group, then you can shoot 5
5-shot groups?
5. I mean, 3 shots is fine. It's that's not mean. That doesn't mean that's the load, but it's
giving you an indication.
Yeah, if you have 3 shots that are massive, then you're like, well,
I do
more
2.
shots.
I do 2, and it starts
2 or
to tighten,
3,
and then I'll do more.
Yeah. Everybody else will tell you that's not statistically significant.
Well, but it's more statistically significant than the ones that are already. You shoot 2 shots and they're 1 inch apart.
Yeah.
Well, shooting more is not going to make it better.
We do on our first target. We usually take 2 or 3 loads with us, and if your first 2 shots go together, go to the next one.
Yeah.
Save
So
your ammo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I recommend is go every 10 marks.
Right.
If you find something that shoots good, keep going past it. And then let's just say setting 40 shot good. Well, then you can test 35 and 45, right? And see if you're in the window.
Yeah.
If 35, 40, and 45 shoot good, then put it in the middle. Put it at 40.
Right.
And try to leave it alone.
Okay.
Now, this V2 tuner usually has a wider range than the older tuner.
Because of the weight difference.
Because of the weight difference and the thread pitch and all. And I did that purpose, following John Mayer's advice. And this was done so that the newer shooters can find a window easier and keep it in the middle.
Well, I know you've got written instructions, but all those guys just suck at reading instructions, But when somebody explains it to you, at least they'll.
How many tunes do you get per turn, Erik? I get maybe 2, if I'm lucky 3.
Well, it depends. Per revolution?
Yeah.
Well, it depends, right? It depends on your barrel contour.
F-class.
We're talking about, but we're talking about how you like the extensions. And, I have found that just amplifies how fast the tune happens, right? I don't use, I'm testing that, but without an extension, I get about 1 tune per revolution, and then you keep going. But yeah, if you have an extension, you're probably going to get more.
At least 2. Yeah.
So it depends on your barrel length, barrel contour, all of that stuff. But I see them and I test, like I have 1,000-yard range. I go do a ladder test. I go out there and I go 1 shot per tune, like 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, and I can go the whole way. And then I let the barrel cool down, and then I'll do another ladder test, and then I start seeing where they cluster. It's like, from 70 to 100, they seem to every time I did a ladder test, they cluster there, and I'm like, that's a pretty stable, And then I take, if it was from 70 to 100, I go to 70, and then I'll do I might do a 10 or 15 shot match with it. And then I go to the next one, and then I do another one. This is over a few days, but I start to pinpoint where it's happier for multiple days, And once I'm happy, then, for example, let's say I go to England and I have my 70 to 100 that shot really good. And I might start at 70. There's other things that I take into consideration, but can't talk too much without giving away John's stuff. But let's say I shoot it and it doesn't, I'll shoot it. I don't make, it may shoot really good. Fine. In the next match, I'll shoot a different tune and see if that's better, the same, or worse. If it got better, I'm like, oh, okay, so it's more towards 80. And then I go to 90 and now it goes to crap. I'm like, okay, it's 80. The next one I might try 75, And if I'm shooting 80, let's say 70 and 80 shot really good, and I'm shooting 80. And for example, the last day of the Europeans, Gary, at 1,000 yards, I'm shooting clean. I'm clean for the day, and I'm 10 shots in, but my gun was pretty tall. I wasn't hitting any Vs, and I go, it doesn't matter that I catch them if I, because I was behind on the V count. I need to hit some more Vs. So I'm clean with 10 shots in, and I got up and I turned my tuner. Talking about how we're not afraid to lose.
Right.
I just went up and turned that tuner, and then I hit some Vs on the back 10, right? Because what did I turn it to? Well, like I said, if I was at 80 and the other good tune was 70, well, let me try 70. Yeah. It might get better, might get worse, but I'm not gonna win as I am, even if I shoot clean.
That's where you gotta take that chance, and if I win, fine. If I don't, well, we'll come back fight another day.
Well, that's why you need to test your tuner. You need to know just having 1 tune doesn't do you any good. You need to have at least several that you can test at distance, because guys luckily don't have the 1,000-yard range that Erik has. There's limited time at 1,000 yards, so a lot of tuner stuff's done at 100. Now that'll work to a point, but then you need to go and take it further and test it at 1,000. So I've had false tunes where you've had the best group in the world, but you take it further and it's just a false group. So you need to find that window, as Erik said. You need those 3 in a row or a wide tune, and then get your numbers and go test it at long range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's all about testing, right? You can't. Especially in the sport that we're in, you need to have it needs to be good, it needs to be stable, right? And that's the name of the game. And a lot of people figure out how to do it, and they get there a different way. But the bottom line is consistency and stability.
So speaking of consistency, we were talking about something yesterday. I don't know if you do it or don't do it. So you measure base to tip, correct? On
Correct.
bullets? And what else do you do to measure bullets?
That's it.
That's it. So you don't measure diameters?
Nope. I mean, I got a CMM now. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of measuring coming up.
Yeah.
But for now, it's just base to tip.
Yeah. I was showing Gary how, let's just say you were shooting a Burger 180 that the nominal size at the pressure ring was 280. Typically on the body, you'll see about a 2/10,000 difference in body from pressure ring as they're manufactured. And we were looking at some Burger 215 hybrids yesterday, and those things were 308.5 or 7 on the pressure ring.
8.5.
Yeah. And then on the body, they were about 2 to 3/10 smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we were talking what that does to your neck tension and what that does to your clearance. Well, you shoot a lot of clearance on your necks.
Right.
Yeah. So you shoot, what, 5,000-6,000 clearance around your necks?
Yeah, I like 5 or more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't affect the longevity of your brass or anything blowing out so much.
Nah. I mean, I anneal every time.
Yeah. But it still affects your neck tension. Let's just say that you were shooting X lot of bullets that were 284, and then you got the next lot that were half a thousand larger, like this
Right.
burger was right there.
Uh-huh.
So you've been mandrelling the bullets to get a certain neck tension in there, and now you've got a half a thousand larger diameter bullet.
Right.
So if you don't monitor that, it can affect.
Well, that's where my amp press comes in, right? I'm,
Well, I mean, that's where you can see a big difference in bullet seating there, right there.
right.
But is that something that you would say, when you see this difference in pressure, would you immediately think fatter bullets?
Well, I do now, just because I have experience with that.
Right.
Right. And yeah, so I do. When I get a new lot of bullets, I mean, I get big lots.
Right.
Like I buy a lot of them at a time simply because I don't like changing stuff. Once you find something that works,
Right.
you want it to keep working for as
Well,
long as possible.
That's the way I do things too. I mean, I make my own bullets, so they stay pretty consistent. I've got enough jackets to, make 10 years worth of bullets and not have any dimensional changes on them.
Jack Neary makes bullets too. He was telling me a shot show. He said
Yeah.
he makes bullets from 65 to 105 grain, and you can find some of them in every box.
I believe. Did he ever show you his finger where he ran the punch through it?
No.
Yeah, that was one of his.
Jack Neary says that you can find some of the most accurate bullets ever made in each box. Oh, he had me laughing with
I
his.
have to attest that is a true statement.
Jack Neary. You know what? I need to have him back.
Yeah.
He's funny. What was the other thing he said? Oh, he says if you're winning, more than likely you're not using his bullets. Anyway, so there's just a lot there on the bullets. And this is stuff that you got to monitor, man. You have to, and this is people go, well, does neck turning make your gun shoot better? I said, I don't know if it makes it shoot better, but it makes it consistent. You can, a lot of people are moving to no turn chambers and they're shooting lights out.
Yeah.
But what I don't like about that whole situation is once that lot of brass goes out, now you have slightly different thickness.
Right.
And now that changed. And then you get new bullets and that, you can stack all these tolerances and now you have you used to have a system that worked amazingly well and now everything changed.
I mean, every bench rate shooter, with maybe the exception of a few, Bart Souter being one of them, turn their necks, and I can guarantee you 100% of those, nobody likes turning necks. I don't care whether it's auto dot or it's your pumpkin or whatever. None of us like it. It's just a labor of love, kind of like bullet making, But I've shot the no turn necks, and I said, you for the effort that you have to put into selecting the brass to do that, I could turn my brass faster than do
Yeah.
that, you know.
Yeah. Well, I just like having the consistency
Yeah.
year after year after year of having the exact same bushing, exact same everything.
Yeah.
Right. And then now I just got to deal with fat or skinny bullets. Right.
Mhm.
Versus all of the above. There's
Yeah.
already too many variables.
Same with me. Mine are all tight neck.
Yeah, I'll turn till I can't turn anymore with the number of pumpkins I've got.
Yeah.
You've seen the pumpkin.
You
patch.
look like a garden out there.
Yeah.
Looks like a Halloween
I think there's 33,
pumpkin patch.
33 pumpkins in the patch.
Anyway, all right. I think we probably should go get something to eat now.
That
I'm
sounds
getting
good.
hungry. All right, Speedy. Anything else?
No,
Sign it
that's
off.
it. Good luck, guys, and keep them small.
Gary.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and good luck, everybody.
All right. Thank you all. That's it. You guys got to ask questions. And if you didn't, that's on you.
Don't forget, give us a like.
Oh, yeah. You guys are slacking big time. Big time. All right. That's it. See ya.